So from here, we have these supply chains that we just talked about. And all of this ties into something called a food system. So a food system is the complex route that food takes from the earth to our plates. And it's driven by the relationship between food, the environment, and our health. So here's one infographic, and there's more that could probably be added to this as well, where we see that our food goes through this process from crop production and growing all the way to policy and then to our plates. So this infographic goes through our production of our crop and animals and seafood, so our food production, which, as I said before, involves a tremendous amount of energy. It then goes through food chain workers to help harvest it, which affects all of this affects climate change. There's agroecology and the ecology of our farming sites and how it affects the ecology of the area. We also then have food distribution, safety, and processing. So taking all of this food and making it so that we can eat it. We also then have labeling and marketing. So it goes through kind of this secondary process here where it then becomes packaged and ready to be shipped. And then it gets shipped around the country and distributed to our grocery stores and to our homes. And in the end, we have a lot of food waste. There's a lot of policy involved. And even though there's policy involved, and even though we're producing so much food, we still have hunger and food insecurity. And so our food system produces a lot of greenhouse gases, which we know are not good for the planet. So our production is 83% of that greenhouse gas emission. We oftentimes think about transportation as being the biggest issue because that's just something that we can conceptualize. If something gets on a plane, it's reducing greenhouse gases. If our food gets shipped long distances, it's producing greenhouse gases. Though the production is really where we're wasting the most energy. And so our food distribution has different scales. It can be either at the local, so this would be, within Massachusetts and Vermont and New Hampshire, maybe Connecticut. So our regional is pretty local because New England is small, but regional would be maybe the rest of New England. And a lot of times we also include New York in our region when it comes to our food. Then we have national and global. And so we have products at our grocery stores that come from all of these different parts. And those different scales require different forms of transportation. We have shipping and rail at our lowest amounts of CO2 being emitted. Truck is significantly more. And then significantly more than that is airplane. So when we are transporting food by plane, we are producing a lot of carbon dioxide and emitting it into the atmosphere. So one thing that we'll talk a lot about is beef. And we've talked last week and before about how beef has a huge carbon footprint, and we saw that in the documentary we watched. But what we don't really think about is that there are different levels of impact. So there's lower impact, average, and higher impact based on how much emissions are being produced or released during the production and transportation of these. And so while beef has the highest emissions, especially for high impact, there are all of these other foods that are also producing and releasing greenhouse gases during the production of it. And so some of them, like a chocolate bar, a high impact chocolate bar, such as one that's from a deforested rainforest, emits more than a serving of low impact beef, which would maybe be like free range, grass fed, antibiotic beef from a local farm. So it's not that beef is the worst and always the worst. It's that we need to really think about where our food is coming from and how to reduce our impact based on our consumer decisions. So today for the remainder of your worksheet, if the rest that you haven't done yet, you are going to think about where your food comes from based on your favorite meal, and then do a reading about the production and distribution of your food before we get deeper into this topic.